Mo kisses. And then, another piece of news that I think you'll find very interesting. We thought that this news would culminate in a start in the Travers Stakes with or without Justify in the picture. And that is Bob Baffert, son of Street Sense. And his name is Mc Kinzie. He won the Sham Stakes in January, marking himself, stamping himself as a major Kentucky Derby contender or early Derby contender. He had won the Los Alamitos Futurity over Solomini and Instilled Regard, a race in which Solomini was disqualified. But nevertheless, in his first stakes run, he ran a very good race, followed up and improved upon it in the Sham, beat Bolt d'Oro, but was disqualified in the San Felipe. And this is kind of where the whole Justify story began. He was supposed to run in the Santa Anita Derby, and Justify was supposed to travel and run against another 2-year-old who was undefeated in Magnum Moon in the Arkansas Derby, and then he sustained an injury, a leg injury, that took the son of Street Sense off the Triple Crown Trail, if you guys don't know the backstory. And then Justify, basically, that flight to go to Hot Springs to run in the Arkansas Derby was canceled, and he ran in the Santa Anita Derby, and as Michael Verona so accurately described it, in the end, his dizzying ascent to greatness, winning his first Grade 1 in his third race in the Santa Anita Derby when smoking Bolt d'Oro in the stretch. So, Mc Kinzie is back. Bob Baffert had said upon the retirement of Justify that Mc Kinzie was looking good. He was looking great. He announced this previous week that Mc Kinzie is now in preparation for the Pennsylvania Derby. That was a target that we thought could be in the cards. I've always said, though, that you don't absolutely have to run in a 2-turn stake to get your horse back, in gear. A conditions race would really, really be good. It wouldn't surprise me, although it's probably more likely than not, that Mc Kinzie runs in a conditions race or even a smaller stake prior to the Pennsylvania Derby. There's about a month window, and at this point, since he hasn't had a race and he's been in light training and he's increased on his training, that the Pennsylvania Derby is going to probably be the spot for him, which takes him pretty much out of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And then, it's a matter of whether Bob's going to really go with one prep, or is he going to do a little bit of, press on him a little bit like Silver Charm, even though he's had a long layoff here, and run him in the Awesome again against older horses and see if that ticket can be punched in that manner to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Is he going to laser light and put together this short, burst of energy, this sort of laser light campaign to put him in the Breeders' Cup gate? It'll be very, very interesting to see. We know he has the speed to run in a race like the mile. That shouldn't be a problem. And then with the Breeders' Cup being at Churchill, he could increase in trip by staying at Churchill and training with Bob Baffert's, Churchill staff that he employs to help horses when he ships to Louisville for the Clark at a 1.125 miles, and then get him on a steady progression. That would ensure him probably a spot at the Pegasus, and I think that's what Bob Baffert's looking at. So will he look at it in that manner, not being preoccupied with the Breeders' Cup Classic, and take a look at running in the races that will progressively move Mc Kinzie up the ladder without seemingly being pushed too far into another injury? Is that the route he's going to go, or is he really, really on the what I call the upswing to get back into the groove that he had going, or the rhythm that he was sustaining or maintaining or building going into the Santa Anita Derby? Is he in a position where off the Pennsylvania Derby, Bob has the option to say, I can train on him again after this and get him ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he's going to be ready to run. He's in good working order. The cylinders are cranking, and this horse is ready to synthesize and crack that oxygen in a manner in which he's going to be, he's going to be hell in a handbasket for the opposition. Is he going to be able to do that off of one prep? I think that it's probably a long shot on paper, but it is something that, Bob Baffert might do with this horse. My guess is going to be, and again, I'm completely speculating without any direct contact with Bob Baffert or Jimmy Barnes or his staff, like a lot of people, is that he'll probably run in the Pennsylvania Derby. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, as aforementioned, is a week afterwards. Couldn't run back in 6.5 days. I think the Awesome again could fit a 1.125 miles, and if he does come out of that with a little fatigue, he has the option to say, we could come back and shorten up at a mile, although that backfired colossally with Dortmund when chasing California Chrome back in 16, and he didn't run so well at a mile. But then again, I think that Mc Kinzie is a quicker horse than that, And if he's not completely wiped out, and if Bob just thinks, yeah, maybe the mile is a little bit more attainable, and so that we can run him in a Breeders' Cup race of some sort, that could be the option. My guess is going to be if all goes really well, he runs in the Pennsylvania Derby, he does well, someone's going to have to be all out to beat him, comes out of that well, he probably wins it. If someone's not all out to beat him, but he runs a winning race, let's put it that way. And then we see him running the Awesome again. That is, probably a good 1-2 combination to, in a short term, get him ready for the Breeders' Cup. It's still a lot to ask. It's still an ambitious, plan, but we'll just see if, in fact, that Bob Baffert will execute one. But some very interesting news. Congratulations to Drayden Van Dyke. Speedy recovery to Victor Espinoza, the man who he matched record-wise in winning 7 races on one card. And also big shout out to Ken McPeak. And of course, we're all fans out there are very, very, curious, along with this Travers Stakes, as to what, if all goes well for Mc Kinzie, for Bob Baffert, and we'll see what happens there. So that's the news update here on the CS Racing Report. We'll have more for you on the next podcast here